All right, a very good morning to you. Welcome along to OTB AM. We're with you every weekday morning from 7:30 all the way through until 10. It's the Sports Breakfast Show from Off the Ball. Johnny Ward is here. Johnny, good morning to you.
How are you, Ger? How are you getting on?
Shane Hannon is here. Shane, good morning to you.
Yeah, Johnny, good morning. How are things?
Whoa, coming in hot from the Crucible. How are you?
Keep it well. Flying, still flying. It's easy to get up early every morning when you have snooker to look forward to. I was going to give you a snooker background on the Skype here, and then I thought better of it. I can change it if you want.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
so I'll give you a couple. Yeah. We've got the Crucible here behind me. I don't know if you can see that.
I like that.
Yeah.
We've got another Crucible version, a bit more distant, possibly.
Are these your own?
We've just got
your own photographs?
Yeah, well, I just took them off Google late last night. So we've got a snooker table generally. So I don't know if you have a favourite option or if you just want the blurred background, but we can stick with this if you like.
The nightlife in Sheffield, obviously not that good if you're able to get up for us and be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 7:30.
Yeah, funny. The people in the UK don't like to drink on weeknights, it turns out, or Sunday nights. Yeah, it's one of those weird ones where even on Sunday night we met up with a couple of Irish lads who had just happened to bump into over here and went for a couple of pints in a pub called the Grapes, which was a nice little Irish homely pub. But then, yeah, by 11:15, it's like, yep, last orders. So quite easy to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, as you say.
There you go. A great club in town, Sheffield, if you want to go out and dance all night, apparently.
Is it,
yeah.
Shane hasn't found it yet. What about the snooker itself?
Snooker's flying, Johnny. I mean, the draw's kind of opening up on one side for Ronnie O'Sullivan a little bit. With all this, with no disrespect, intended to the other players. He plays Luca Brissell at 10 a.m. this morning in the first quarterfinals. So it looks like it's kind of opening up, because if he wins that, and Luca Brissell has never been this far in the tournament, he plays either Anthony McGill or Si Jiawei, the young Chinese 20-year-old, in the semi-finals. And then the other side of the draw, you've got John Higgins, who's playing brilliantly against Mark Selby in a Titan quarter-final. Both players have won 4 world titles. So it's Ronnie O'Sullivan's to lose, that's what I'm going to say. But we could have a real exciting final this year, Ronnie against one of the big hitters.
What are tickets like, actually?
You're talking £50 for a session early on in the tournament. So around €60 to get, and that could be, I mean, you could get very, very unlucky. There was the other morning, because Ronnie had finished the session early and got the job done against Hossein Vafai 13-2, it meant people had bought tickets for a Ronnie O'Sullivan session over on table 1. But Ronnie had finished the match early. This is the risk you take with snooker. So those people probably came on Sunday thinking, oh, we're going to get to see Ronnie O'Sullivan for the first time ever. And yet he had finished the match early, so unfortunately that was money not well spent. They obviously lift up the divider and you can see the other match, but it's just not the same.
Yeah, my mate sent a photo on the group. It's like, we've a really, really good view of the table, but like that was the table in front of them. That wasn't actually the table where the snooker was on. The table was like the other end of the room.
Yeah, it's funny the way it works out. It is a really, really good live event. Like someone yesterday was saying to me, I think they were watching Ali Carter in one of the first rounds. It was their first time over here, and they were like, Jesus, I was front row and I could smell Ali Carter's aftershave. And I was thinking, yeah, that's what snooker's all about. The sights and the smells, and you can almost feel the chalk coming off the cue and flying into your face. Not quite, but yeah, it's definitely one of those things where if you have a closer seat, all the better.
So you haven't seen Ronnie this year yet, have you?
No, I did. Sorry, I managed to see Ronnie on Saturday. So one session against Hossein Vafai, and he was brilliant. There were 7 frames. Ronnie wins all 7. Like, I couldn't believe that we got those tickets, because it was actually Stephen Healy, shout out to him, he's a Mayo or a Sligo man who managed to sort us out. And the Ronnie tickets, as you can imagine, are gold dust for every round. And even just Rob Walker introducing him to the crowd, there's just a different feeling. There's obviously four players being introduced for each session, and Ronnie was the last on that day. And I mean, like, to say the place was electric, and we were lucky to be on that side of the room as well. And he played brilliantly, which just added to the occasion. It's up there now with one of my favourite sporting moments live. Just to see, wow. I've seen Ronnie play live at exhibitions, and both in Drogheda and in Monaghan, but it's just not the same at the Crucible Theatre when there's something on the line. And in the year in which he's going for an 8th world title to beat Stephen Hendry, it was electric, lads. Like, I don't know what.
Hossein Vafai, am I doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hossein Vafai, yeah.
I mean, you know, a bit Frank Lampard-esque going at Jurgen Klopp. Oh, there you are, giving it the big one with your 7 world titles. What the hell was he doing? Like, it's one of the lamest stoke the bear try and punch them in the nose efforts that we've ever seen ever in any sport ever.
It was ridiculous. Like, even it kind of all started last year when Vafai said Ronnie should retire and leave it to the young players, and Ronnie always loves complaining and this and that, and people were like, who is this? Who's this Vafai lad? I mean, giving out at Ronnie O'Sullivan, the greatest player of all time. And then it just heated up after Vafai won his opening round match, and starts targeting Ronnie O'Sullivan as well, and saying he loves excuses. And Ronnie was sick in his opening round match. He beat a Chinese player called Pang Zhongzhu 10-7, and afterwards he was just like, you don't want to piss me off, essentially, and that's exactly what Vafai did. Even in the second frame of the match, he breaks. I don't know if you've seen this clip, lads, but Ronnie wins the first frame easily enough. It's 1-13. Second frame, Vafai has the break, and he just smashes the reds, a la pool table style in your local pub. And you don't do that against anyone. First of all, it's seen as disrespectful.
But Ronnie did it to him, is the thing.
He did. Yeah, he did it at the German Masters when Vafai was 4-0 up, and Ronnie was probably just thinking, right, get me out of here. But in the Crucible, against the greatest player of all time, you just don't do it. Ronnie, of course, cleared up. The reds were left everywhere, and Ronnie just had one easy red, potted the colour, and cleared up and won the frame. So it didn't bother him at all. Ronnie's steely-eyed focus has been something that I could not believe. People have this idea of Ronnie O'Sullivan as someone who loses the head a little bit, but not anymore. Like, he's 47 years of age now, part of that class of 92 with Williams and Higgins, and to see him up close and how focused he was as a sports person was it was actually intimidating and scary, even in the crowd.
Yeah, because I remember the 147, that ridiculously quick 147. I was in national school. Like, I might even not have been in sixth class at that time. Like, and his longevity is incredible. Like, has he gotten to the stage now where, I know he's spoken a lot about this, but has he gotten to the stage where mentally he does appreciate like where he's at, and like he has to kind of embrace still being at that level, and embrace still kind of being in love with the game as well? Yeah,
I think so. Like, that would have been April 1997 when that maximum happened. That was the year actually Ken Doherty won the World Championships. But earlier in the tournament, as you say, 5-minute 20-second maximum break. But the mental side of it for him, like, I saw Steve Peters over here as well, who does be with him for the tournament. Clearly still working very heavily with him. But Ronnie, anytime you talk to him, and I've been lucky to interview him a couple of times, he's always referencing individual sports people. He's big into boxing. He was a Tyson Fury fan for some time. He follows different people. We were actually sitting very close to Paddy the Baddy the other day as well, who was down to watch Ronnie O'Sullivan. He's big into tennis. I think Federer is one of his all-time heroes. He talks about Tiger Woods all the time, Djokovic as well. So he's one of these people who just takes little bits and bobs from different sports people. Even like the other days, it's the day of his match, I think, and he's tweeting about the London Marathon, and he's just sitting up watching the run, and that's what he does when he's over in Sheffield here. He goes for runs, maybe goes into the Peak District a little bit and relaxes. He's not on the drink or anything anymore. He's got a barge as well in Sheffield on the canal, which he sometimes sleeps on, uses for just sitting and drinking tea and relaxing, maybe reading a book. So it's not the image of Ronnie O'Sullivan you maybe had back in the 90s, but he's a different animal. And psychologically speaking, he seems to be in a really, really good place. All
right, Shane staying with us. It's 7:38, just turning 7:39 this morning. Here's what's coming up between now and 10 o'clock for you. James Tracy's going to join us in studio to preview Leinster-Toulouse at 8 o'clock. Michael Verney's going to talk hurling at 8:25. Tommy is back with the power rankings. Meath outside the top 16, of course. No need for power rankings today from a Cavan fan, says Shane. Phil Egan's going to join us alongside Kathleen at 9:15 to talk Spurs and also Arsenal, and then we'll play out with Damien Delaney from last night's football show. Spurs have sacked their interim coach.
Indeed. Well, it wasn't a great weekend, was it? I don't know, are Spurs getting the battle for sort of fourth or fifth now is becoming quite interesting, because Man United are in such a good position if they don't wobble. But I didn't see the game Sunday, but Spurs, I don't know, what more can you say at this stage?
Well, they need a new manager.
They do need a new manager.
Brian Mason is stepping in. Good opportunity for Brian Mason. Won 4 out of 6 games the last time he was the interim manager. So if he was to do that again, that would certainly put a cat amongst the pigeons in the race for the top 4.
Yeah, interesting debates about Harry Kane as well now, what they need to do with Harry Kane, even though he's an amazing player. Is he a bit of an upsetting influence? I
don't think he's an upsetting. Who's saying that?
Yeah.
Is anybody saying that, really? Anybody credible saying that?
It's kind of like, how much more can you say about Spurs at this stage? I did want to ask Shane about Mark Allen.
All right, we'll go back to the snooker. So yeah, we'd moved on from the snooker, but that's all right. Yeah,
just briefly. So I once was in a heads up in a poker tournament with Mark Allen, where
what's a heads up?
Heads up is like where you're down to the last 2 players, which was really misleading in terms of my performance, because essentially I got to the last 3. It was on in Killarney. And my boss in the race boats at the time, for some reason, he couldn't go, and I don't know how we were invited, but like I got on this table with like Paul Carberry, Ruby Walsh, Mark Allen, a few rugby players as well. Anyway, it was a bit mad.
Was this back before you got into rugby?
I was probably more into rugby when I was like before that, but Shane Byrne went toe to toe on points with Shane Byrne. That was.
You're not going to win that, Johnny.
No, and I didn't. But it got down to the last 3. But I had like I'd say about 3% of the chips left, if maybe 5. And it was, to all intents and purposes, a heads up between Paul Carberry and Mark Allen. And Mark Allen, like all he did the entire game was he literally bluffed. He was just kept going all in, and he won anyway. And I ended up heads up with him, even though I had no chance. But I spoke to him afterwards. It was like, you have an interesting style of playing poker, and he goes, I'm kind of the same in snooker. My attention span is terrible, and I just can't last out games. But apparently, he's finally reached his kind of potential, and this could be his year.
Well, Jesus, lads, we could have an Irish winner this year, and that story seems to be going under the radar. Like he's one of the best players to have not won a World Championship. I would say he's up there with the likes of Karen Wilson.
What a talent!
He's unbelievable, and this year, like he's got Jack Jones in the quarterfinal this morning. And Jack Jones, with all due respect to the Welshman, he's never been in this position before. Mark Allen's got to a semi-final before, albeit it was years ago. But it could well be it could be a Ronnie O'Sullivan Mark Allen final.
That'd be amazing.
The draws open up, which will be incredible. Like he's actually lost 6 stone, Mark Allen, in recent months. He's credited Ronnie O'Sullivan as someone who he's worked alongside. To help him achieve that. Obviously he's had personal trainers and stuff as well. In fact, one of the Irish lads I was with the other morning was like, went up to him the other day and said, Mark, you're not half the man you used to be, which Mark took in good spirits. He's unbelievable. Like he's playing so well. He's thrashing people. He's not just beating people. All season it's been threatened. But the fact that he's doing it so, and he looks so healthy and happy. Like he was even on commentary for the BBC the other day. I was at one of the matches. And to be honest, I was distracted because Alan was in my ear on the earpiece alongside John Virgo on commentary. And lads, Mark Allen is an unbelievable co-commentator in snooker. Like he adds so much insight. He's so witty as well. But he knows when to be humorous. He knows when the players don't want the audience, for example, in the auditorium, giggling and putting off the players. So he holds the humour off to a moment where there's already been a shot taken, or where maybe he's on a century break and the frame is over for all intents and purposes. So he's an unbelievable commentator. He's clearly in a good place on the base as well. So look, if he could beat Jack Jones and get past his semi-final and maybe meet Ronnie O'Sullivan in the final, that would be incredible. He's a talent, and this year he's threatening to go all the way. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that he was a bit of a bluffer on the poker table as well.
He admitted it, but like you think Paul Carberry, like one of the most mercurial sort of geniuses in any. How do you call it though, Shane? So like, is it rockets to lose more or less?
I'm going with Ronnie O'Sullivan. Like the way John Higgins has been playing, he's been incredible. Although Higgins hasn't won the World Championship since 2011, he's lost the last 3 finals. In fact, he lost 3 finals in a row in recent years. So he just needs to get over that line again. He's got Mark Selby in a quarterfinal. Like Anthony McGill is a player who's played really, really well and seems to just only up his game for the Crucible. A lot of people are fans of his, and he'll play Sijia Wei now in the next round. So I'm going Ronnie O'Sullivan, lads.
You really are in your happy place, though. You're just happy there, really.
Yeah.
Look at the smile on his face.
There you go.
Just buzzing.
Fountainstown Foreland says, lads, the cricketers are doing great. 399 for 6 at lunch on day 2. Amazing turnaround from last week on the same pitch. The endurance to last 2 days in the heat is unreal. We could be on for a draw. Joseph Manny says, hope you mentioned the cricket lads. Ireland in a strong position at lunch on day 2. We'll talk about that.
Big moment for Sterling as well, I think. Yeah,
hit a century this morning. We'll talk with Phil a little bit later on. He's been watching it out there. Around about 9:15, we'll bring you up to date on how that is going as well. So you both wanted to talk about Gaelic football this morning. You have a bee in your bonnet about James Horan's column.
Well, it's actually a really good column and
you're backpedaling furiously already.
Well, I'll backpedal to the first line. At half-time on Sunday, Galway had powered their way to outright favourites for this year's All-Ireland. Like, what? That's absolutely ridiculous. Like, Galway were hot favourites to beat Roscommon. I think the handicap was 2, but they were ahead of where they were expected to be at half-time. Roscommon were poor and their attacking limitations were exposed. Galway were leading against Roscommon. Galway are 4th favourites for the All-Ireland. They're nowhere near favourites. Kerry and Dublin are vying for favouritism. Kerry are favourites. So you can't say they were favourites. They were favourites in my opinion. Favourites are what the bookies say.
Hey man, that's just like my opinion.
Man, so they're not favourites. I'm with James Horan.
They were obviously James Horan favourites at half time.
But didn't say that.
He's literally writing a column. There's a picture beside him.
Galway haven't been favourites for the All-Ireland in a long time. He then goes on though to say that their kick-out strategy is a bit of a mess. Very interesting reading. I don't know, Shane. Galway for me, the fact that they got so close last year, will have some learnings from it. Coming through the Connacht Championship as well, so it's fairly easy for them to win one game sort of this year, and they're more or less in the top seeding. I don't. They're not favourites, but I do like their chance actually.
I hate all this stuff in GAA where people from a certain county who are playing really well and doing really good stuff lean away from the favourite stuff. Like you had Shane Curran the other morning going, Roscommon, no chance against Galway. Essentially, you were on with me, Johnny. Like you're a Galway man. You were All-Ireland final last year. The team has probably developed from last year as well. You've got players like John Maher and Robert Finnerty looking brilliant. Once Shane Walsh gets back into it now and properly, you'll be even better. Damien Comer looks supreme. Might have found the solution to your goalkeeping problems as well. That it's probably still a bit of an issue, but why not lean into it? Like if you got to an All-Ireland All-Ireland final last year. You're into the Connacht final this year. Weren't far off Kerry, it has to be said, last season. Yeah, if Galway played the Dubs right now, I'm not sure who would come out on top of that. It's probably Dublin's to lose, but you got to lean into this, Johnny. Galway are one of the favourites, if not the favourites for some people for the All-Ireland.
Well, they're 4th favourites, and like if you're talking about like the market is absolutely dominated.
But the market isn't always right.
It's not always. And
the whole point is to try and find some value. And what James Horan is saying, in his opinion, they're the most likely winners. Obviously. But it's literally an opinion column. Of course, it's his opinion.
Why are Dublin so much shorter than Galway in the betting? That I don't get. If Galway play Dublin tomorrow, I'd fancy Galway.
Well, fair enough, but because Dublin are a far superior outfit to the team that played last year, that ran Kerry close in the second half.
Are they?
Yeah.
I know they've
Conor Callan's fit.
I know that. Like, did we see that in the league?
Paul Mannion.
Yeah.
And
McCaffrey's back.
There you go. So,
but who are you putting ahead of Galway, Johnny? Who are the 3 teams ahead of them?
Well, Kerry would be, yeah. Like, Kerry still beat Galway with a degree of comfort last year, and there's no evidence they're any worse. But I don't know, the gap with Dublin I'd have shorter. I just don't know with Dublin. Like in the league, there was a lot of shadow boxing, and we haven't learned much yet. But in theory, if you look at the All-Ireland semi-final last year, Dublin should win the All-Ireland with the players they have back. But I don't know.
I think Kerry could improve on last year as well. That's the other thing. So Kerry are another year down the road of having Paddy Tally's defensive structure embedded. The young players are more mature. Like we're not going to see the full flare out of their forwards talent, I think, until we get to Croke Park on All-Ireland quarter-final weekend.
Ditto with Galway.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Galway are being anointed by both Horan and McGuinness as like, oh, this is it now. They played Roscommon in a game that both teams could afford to lose. Like, let's wait and see. Last year they beat Derry and they beat Armagh. And
and Mayo
in Croker.
Yeah,
they beat Mayo and Croker.
They beat Mayo and Castlebar.
Right.
Jerry's holding on to his 1998 Kildare bitterness. You see when he
I think that like we're in danger sometimes of overrating stuff. Like there was an incredible performance from Shane Walsh in the All-Ireland final, but nobody really thought that Galway were going to win that game, did they? At any stage, did it really feel like Galway were going to win the game?
Half-time was a point in it. I think there was a chance for Galway. I just feel like this year it's tough to know which teams want to win their province. But Galway feel like the team, like Joyce kind of suggested as much, that the Connacht Championship still matters to Galway. I don't know how much it mattered to Mayo or Roscommon.
I was going to make this point about McGuinness's column today. He's talking about the basketball playoffs and how he went to a game one time in Charlotte with the kids, and the guy in the queue behind him says, don't worry, you're not going to miss anything until the last 10 minutes, because it doesn't matter, it's a regular season game, but the playoffs are on at the moment and every single play matters. And he was like, oh, the Connacht, that game between Roscommon and Mayo at the weekend, everything mattered. I'm like, it did not matter. You can continue to fight the ingovernable sea, but provincial championships are dead. I see Peter Canavan out going, oh, my medals are really important to me. Fair enough, that was a time when it really mattered. It doesn't matter anymore, especially now we have a proper round robin. The provincials they're.
How long do they have, Ger?
I don't. They could have another century. This is the GAA. We could be stuck with them forever.
Climate change will take care of that.
Is the Hoover back with you, Shane? There's a little bit of.
There's no Hoover. There's no Hoover with me. No, there's no Hoover here, unless it's coming from you lads. But
I guess the weekend means a lot to the likes of Offaly, for example, who are sort of thrown against me. Then you're like, well, and then you look at Louth. So like, it's not like the provincial championships. Like, there were always mismatches as well. So there are some kind of pockets of like games. Resistance. Like, I know it's a bit of a joke, and you need teams matched up against teams of a similar ilk. But Sligo are in a Connacht final, Clare are in a Munster final. Offaly and Louth are quite happy with their lot at the moment, as are obviously our man Monaghan.
Clare are currently the second best team in Munster, and so they're there on merit.
Yeah,
I think you could say.
Even though their manager thinks the provincial thing is a joke at this.
Yeah, but I think for Offaly, for example, like they played Meath in a game where they had targeted that for ages, and that suggests that they're going to be realistic contenders when it gets to the Tailteann Cup, and that's a really important, developmental stage for Offaly, who hopefully at some point become an established Division 2 team, and then become like Monaghan are the model. Everybody should be aspiring to be Monaghan, and if the organisation and the backroom team is good and the structures are good, then there's no reason why you can't be competitive. At that point, then you go deep in either the Tailteann Cup or you cause upsets in the All Ireland series in Sam Maguire.
Well, how do Meath approach the Tailteann Cup actually this year?
Well, they obviously have to go. They absolutely have to go all out to win it.
They'll probably consider themselves a little bit historically above this, but they're not.
Yeah, I think that's the point. I don't think anybody. You are where you are, and if Kildare are in the Tailteann Cup, that's because they've fallen into it as a result of not managing the league properly. And so, if Kildare are in the Tailteann Cup and don't win it, it's a disaster.
How do you avoid lads going abroad though? How do you avoid lads deciding at this stage this week, if you're a Meath footballer and you're like, do I really want to win the Tailteann Cup? Well,
look, if lads go abroad, then they weren't that committed to the season in the first place, and you've got to question that. I don't think the club championship I don't think the money in America starts until later on anyway, right?
Yeah, it's true. I know that Ben McDonald was speaking last week, the Tyrone footballer, and he's going to Boston, I think in June. He's been over in Australia, so I think it's June maybe when the championship over there really heats up. But like you're seeing players, like there was news coming out of Monaghan in the last few days. I don't know if you heard it, lads, as well. Ryan McAnespie is back, which is to people outside Monaghan, you mightn't appreciate how big of news this is, but it's like Monaghan getting one of the key cogs, one of the first names into their starting 15 back into their squad. There's talk that he's even in contention to play against Derry. I don't know how true those are, but he's been in Australia. He's been living with Ben McDonald, actually, the Tyrone player I mentioned. Ben is going out with Ryan's sister Emer, and they've been living in Sydney. Ryan, of course, is a nephew of the late Aidan McAnespie, who was shot in Knocknacloy. And I think the plan is to go over and play for the Aidan McAnespie club in Boston from June onwards. But Ryan is clearly coming back into the Monaghan setup, and that was reported this week by Gaelic Life. So exciting times for Monaghan, lads.
If the league is being presented as a competition to rival the championship that offers more games, etc., maybe the championship should return to knockout and remove the Super 8 and develop the Tailteann Cup further, says Michael. I mean, just go whole hog and have the provincial championships at the start of the year, start on the new bank holiday at the start of February and finish it on Paddy's Day, and that's your provincial championships done, and then take a month off for everybody to go back to the clubs and then just play a league-based championship with 4 divisions. It's really easy.
That's your solution.
It's really easy. It's like it's staring us right in the face, and we're like, no, we can't do this obvious thing. It's too obvious.
But does that not turn the provincial championships into the McKenna Cup and the pre-season competitions?
But there would be no pre-season competitions. or keep your pre-season competitions if you want, and then they're definitely not the pre-season competitions. But it's a competition where everybody fights locally, and there's massive pent-up demand for intercounty football, and it's played over 6 weeks, and it's a festival of football, and everybody goes and they have competitions, and at the end of it there's a trophy. Like if everybody's like, oh, you got to keep these trophies, keep the trophies. And if the trophy means that much to you, fight for it. It doesn't matter what time of the year you win it. Like, tradition, it has to be linked, otherwise people won't take it. They'll take it as seriously as they want.
No, but this idea of it has to be linked, that solution that you suggest would still get rid of the fact that years ago people enjoyed the provincial championships. We're talking back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, because if you won your province, you were straight into an All-Ireland semi-final. And that was part of the luster.
But you're not anymore, you know?
I know, but was it like...
So that they changed that like 20 years ago.
I know.
Anyway, Joy said in his interview that the only people saying they don't care about the provinces are making excuses after losing. It's loser talk, Johnny. Loser talk.
Yeah, well, like in fairness in Connacht, like were Roscommon overly bothered? Like if you go back to Leitrim in, what was it, 94, like they had to be Galway, Mayo and Roscommon that year, as far as I recall, and that was unbelievable. And like for Leitrim people, that would still bring a tear to their eye thinking of it. But it's just not really possible anymore for teams to compete. So I think just from this weekend, it does feel like an absolute nadir though for the provincial system, because everyone knows the game is up, like at this stage. And once they went down the route of the back door, they started tinkering with the knockout format anyway. And now we've gotten to a stage where it's just too professional at the top level. And the crowds at league games and the intensity at league games in winter, really good crowds at league games, like is testament to the fact that, you know, it's up. The game is up, like, and it's a question of when.
I don't know. It's like I still really, really enjoy the league and the current league format. Maybe that's because I'm a Monaghan man, but I do think that there is something in keeping the league the way it is, keeping it where it is as well. I don't like the current system, so I'm not saying I'm coming here this morning with all the answers, but I wouldn't like to see the league changed whatsoever. Like,
well, it needs to be more incorporated into a championship kind of.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah.
Could it not be played in slightly better weather? Would that not be a good thing to watch the best teams play each other in good weather? Imagine that. Imagine how radical an idea that is, instead of watching teams get pasted. Like, there's a good chance with all the best will in the world that Sligo could put in their best performance ever, and they would still lose the Connacht final by 8, 9, 10 points. And like, that's not actually beneficial to them that much. Now, let's wait and see how they get on in the round robin. And I wish them all the best, but it's going to be very difficult for them to step up in class if the draw is unkind to them. And it may well be. They may well end up getting Westmeath at home, and they may well have a victory against Westmeath in the opening round, and they could feel good about themselves, and everyone will go, oh, their provincials are great because look what they've done. But Sligo could have won the Tailteann Cup this year. Sligo could have been the ones having a mad homecoming and celebration and a team holiday, but I'm not sure that they're going to get that for winning one game and then being beaten out the gap in 2 other matches, and it just doesn't make any sense. Anyway,
Sligo's route to getting into the groups was basically, you know, to beat London and New York.
Why can't the league be run in conjunction with the championship like basically any other sport? Asks Shifty Lad. Nail on the head there. Derek Flagbanner says, classic Johnny this morning. Who writes this stuff? Cry laughing emoji. Not sure which bit it was. Probably
the one thing was you got to remember, like,
Bluffing with Mark Allen.
Sport for most of its history was like a part-time thing. Gaelic games is a part-time thing. You played for your club, you played for the county in the championship in the summer. For most counties, they were knocked out. Half of them were knocked out in the first game. That's what it was. It was magic. But now it's borderline professional, so it just does not exist in this format anymore. It's completely anachronistic.
Yeah,
and you know, we have to
tension. Yeah, they all have to go to work. Right.
Look at Sligo's route to a Connacht final this year. That's the anomaly of it. Like,
who are you seeing today, Shane?
We've got a bit of Ronnie. We've got a bit of Ronnie and Luca Brissell this morning, and Mark Allen, Jack Jones. So all the players you want to see, lads. So I've been very thankful to have seen them over the last couple of days, but it's really heating up now. So Sunday and Monday is the usual final. So it's all coming to a head.
You're playing in, are you? You don't seem to have a media pass.
No, he was there.
I have media pass as well.
Yeah.
Oh, you have media pass.
Yeah.
And you're back tomorrow, just as it gets good.
Listen, back in studio. I know it's unfortunate. You're going to have to listen to me talking about snooker in studio, but listen, worse things have happened.
All right. Good man, Shane. Thanks a million. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Cheers, lads.
Coming up, we have a live UEFA Champions League Roadshow in partnership with Just Eat on the 3rd of May in the Mansion House in Dublin. We have UEFA Champions League winners John O'Shea and Wes Brown along with Arsenal and Aston Villa legend Paul Merson. It's sure to be a brilliant night's entertainment. It's an exclusive off-air event. Tickets are limited, so don't delay. Go to offthewall.com/events. We will see you on the night. Just Eat, the official food delivery partner of the UEFA Champions League.